Hey, this is Matthew Harvey here with the 12 o'clock Siren recording live at the 903 Broadband Studios at the Cowboy Corner on the southeast side of the downtown Leonard Square. On my left hand is James Christopher Walken Hartley.
Why did you... That's a different one. That's weird.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No?
I mean, yeah,
You like
sure.
it?
I do.
What are you going to do with it?
I don't know. I can't be put on the spot like that. It'll probably come up in the middle of the podcast.
What do you have to do?
I don't know.
Well, you got to do.
I'm not doing it.
You're not going to go for
no,
it?
not doing it.
I just knew you'd go straight into it.
Man, I can't. Because I have to, like, warm up with it. And then if it comes out horrible on the podcast, it's out there for, posterity.
Ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's got a Christopher Walken impression that I was hoping to pull out of him.
It's pretty good.
Right off the top there.
But you put me on the spot and it embarrassed me.
I figured it was worth a try.
We'll do it. Maybe the recap.
We are back for another exciting episode of the 12 o'clock Siren after a couple months.
Oh, yeah. It's been a minute.
Inactivity. Not on the behalf of the podcast, not us.
Yeah.
We've been busy. Podcast is not. So here we are.
Yeah.
And we have a guest today, two guests, as a matter of fact, that my wife, like many other women in America right now, loves murder.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Kind of creeps me out a little bit.
So she roped me into watching this documentary on the Peacock app. And you may be familiar with it from podcasts or maybe the miniseries that came out called Dr. Death.
Yeah.
So we were watching this miniseries documentary thing, and one of the victims and surviving victim of the miniseries was a name that looked familiar to me, and as a local name. So I just did a little light search on Facebook, and turns out she's from Trenton, Texas. And I reached out to this lady, and she was very nice to come in here and talk more about her experience on the with the Dr. Death himself.
Yeah.
So she's here with her husband, Miss Pam and Larry Trusty.
Hello.
Hello.
How are y'all doing today?
Thank you so much for coming in here and talking to us. It was kind of crazy running across your name on this documentary, and it's all a Dallas thing, so I kind of expected somebody to be from around here, and turns out you, in fact, were. So I'm really excited to get you in here to talk to you about this and find out a little more.
And after watching some of the docuseries, I'm really glad you're able to come in here
Absolutely.
and talk to us.
We're very happy that you can walk, and there's so many other people that got just a
horrible outcome.
Horrible
as
and
they kept
heartbreaking
saying.
story.
Thank you.
And we're happy that you can come here and enjoy your life as well.
So
I'm not sure how to start this. I'd like to know what made you go to this guy? Well, not to this guy, but what was your ailment? What was the injury or your problem that made you?
And just a little pro tip, you'll need to get a little close to the mic. So
Okay.
Yeah,
There
you're
you go.
good there.
Well, I was having neck pain.
Okay.
Really, really bad. At the time I had the surgery and stuff, my mom was still alive, and we were driving on 75 in McKinney going to my arthritis doctor, And she said, "Man, you're really in pain." And I said, "Oh, I can't hardly drive at all." And so when I went to him, he said, "Well, I've done all I can do." He'd been giving me shots and various things. He said, "I'm going to send you to another doctor." So he sent me to a neurologist, not a neurosurgeon, just a neurologist. And so I went to that doctor, and he tried shots and various things too. And when he gave up, he said, "No, you're going to have surgery." And so I said, "Oh, gee." So he said he would get with my rheumatologist, and they would determine where to send me. Well, I know I was in my rheumatologist's office when he was in an argument with this neuro doctor about where they were going to send me. And he wanted to send me to a female doctor in McKinney. And I believe that she's kind of mentioned in one of the episodes of the drama or something. One of the patients comes in and says, where is, and it was a woman's name. And so this doctor that I was seeing said, "No, I don't want to send her there. I've got another surgeon who's really great. He is one of Dallas's newcomers, and he is fantastic. And that's the first time I ever heard the name Dr. Duntsch. So I go in and I see him.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you've had a doctor send you there, so
Sure.
you think everything's fine. So I go in and I have an MRI done, and it's determined.
One moment, where was this at? Because when he came into the DFW area, was basically his first professional job, I believe, out of college.
Yeah, well, it was post residency.
Post residency, okay, but that was all in Memphis.
Yeah,
That was in Memphis. He came to Texas by way of Baylor.
Baylor, yeah,
It's
in
the-
Plano.
Right. And he
So-
had an office by the time I got to see him over in Plano. It's kind of across from where Children's Hospital is
Oh,
now
yeah.
in Plano.
Hedgecock's and Preston.
Okay.
In that area. And so that's where I went.
And was that through Baylor Scott White?
I don't know who he was with by then.
No, I think they had cut ties.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was
I
just
think
open
they
to
had-
private practice.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was at medical of Dallas either at that point in time, because by the time that he said what I needed done, and I've talked about in the past what a charismatic personality he had. You know, he told me that he had worked on football players that were back on the field in 6 months, and just all kinds of lies.
Just
you know?
lies.
But
All
had
lies.
I had no idea. And he can tell you about contacting my son, and they, scoured the internet for anything about him because he didn't like him. And
Yeah.
that's my
Hairs on the
husband.
back of your neck stood up.
Yeah.
Now, you said somebody referred you to him?
Yes.
Now, how does that relationship or how does that referral come about from that doctor? Because he would have had to heard something good from somebody or known somebody. So, do you have any idea where
Well-
that might have come from?
No. I mean,
Maybe just
knowing-
heard it through the grapevine. There's a hot new doctor. That's kind of just
right.
the word on the street.
But I'll get into it later about what I found out about that relationship.
Okay.
But he,
Ooh.
I know. I'm curious.
He was-
You're looking at us like you've got a lot of secrets and a lot
Yeah.
of stuff
No, I
to
don't have a
say.
lot of
Not
secrets.
secrets, but things to say. Yeah.
I have a lot of things
yeah.
to
Okay.
say.
All right.
Anyway, my husband and my son tried to find something about him, and they couldn't find anything.
Right.
And now he operated on like 36 people or something like that,
Total.
and I was not number 32.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
So there was nothing out there on the internet
Wow.
about this man
All right.
that we could find anyway. So he told, Larry told my son, he said, there's something about that man I don't like, and you look and see if you can find anything and all of this. So we didn't find anything. So at that point, I was going to have surgery maybe at that medical of Dallas. And by the time I go back in for my visit before the surgery, he had moved it to a general hospital in South Dallas.
It was like a community hospital, right?
Right.
And that was the
right.
one featured.
Yeah.
in the
And
documentary.
that's the last one. But
Okay. Yep.
Larry asked him, he said, why are you sending us all the way to South Dallas to have surgery when there's hospitals all around here?
Yeah.
And his answer was, you want to tell
Some
him?
of the best ones too.
Yeah. He said that hospital has bought the microscope that I like to do surgery under. They treat me with royalty and treat all of my patients with royalty. Don't you want your wife to be treated with royalty?
Are you kidding me?
No. He had an answer for everything.
Yeah. It sounds.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was a slick talker,
Wow.
and I picked up on him the very first time, but she had her confidence in him, and you want to have confidence if you're fixing to go on the knife with your doctor, and I really should have talked her out of it, but I tried to find what I could find on the internet, which was nothing.
Yeah.
And I really blame Baylor and the places that had banned him. I blame
Absolutely.
them.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. They were just trying to kick the bucket.
Texas board as well, yeah. I mean, because there were people actively making complaints on him and trying to get through, and they
Yes.
were getting shoved to the side, and nobody wanted to take any responsibility for it.
No. After my surgery, I was going to comment on that. I went to a different doctor. He was in Dallas. He had operated on a friend of ours' daughter. So I knew from that, okay, he did her good, so I'll go to him. Because I didn't see him until I had my surgery the end of December in 2012. I didn't see him till February of 2013.
So they
And-
kind of they sort of highlighted some of that in the docuseries, where when he was losing privileges at one hospital, he was kind of stiff-arming people, saying, "Oh, I'm busy," and it was really just trying to find another place he could operate.
Right.
That's right. And so
Right.
you probably fell into some of that, right?
I did.
Yeah.
And so we forgot where I was at.
Oh, sorry, I interrupt.
No, that's fine what you said.
Well, you were going to South Dallas to that the South Dallas hospital.
right. And he asked and he got his answer, and so we said okay. So we went ahead and went with it. So when I got down there, we had to leave Trenton at like 4:30 in the morning to get through the Dallas traffic to get down there. When I got down there, I looked at him and he looked at me, and in that drama series, it showed the inside of that hospital with the big square tiles that are tan, just like the old hospitals and
Sure.
doctors' offices and stuff. And we just kind of looked at each other. Well, when we found where we was going, he went to the waiting room and they took me in and got me prepped for surgery. And the anesthesiologist would not put me under. And Dr. Duntsch was having a fit. I mean, he was yelling and screaming and walking up and down the hall. I was in a room, and there was a hallway to my left, and I could see him charging up and down that hall. He'd come in there every once in a while, and he would tell that doctor, he said, "You put her under. I am ready to get this surgery over. I have another one waiting." And they did bring another guy in.
It's not what you want to hear.
No, that's
No,
not what I
I
want
know.
to hear. And so they had brought another guy in. And so anyway, I think that time that the anesthesiologist gave me, he came down off a high. Because he went from a raging maniac to pulling a chair up beside me and carrying on a conversation. Now, I couldn't tell you what we talked about because I'm sure I'd had something to make me laugh.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You know, but he sat there and he talked to me and just, you know, but he was calm.
As if he slipped back into doctor mode or something
Right.
and
he
had
was,
it together.
He was calm. I did not know until after I had the surgery that I was the first patient he'd ever gone through the front side of the neck alone. All the other doctors that were in the series and stuff had always opened for him. He did his surgery, and then, of course, you know, usually they have a team that closes.
Sure.
And so he cut my throat open by himself, you know, and
That's horrifying.
Wow.
it was scary when I realized what had happened. I went to go back, and I had not had any physical therapy, nothing. They hadn't contacted me, just dead silence from that office. And I told Larry, I said, I don't know what's going on, because I was calling the office and telling them of a good friend of my son that does therapy and where he was at and stuff like that, you know, and they were just saying, okay, we'll get him to send an order in, because, you know, you have to have an order to take physical therapy. So he never did do it. So when I finally did get in to see him the last of January or 1st of February, he pulls one on me that he had been awarded an award by the city of Dallas for being the best neurosurgeon in Dallas. And his staff had voted on me being the one that they would interview, and he would get his award. So I said, gee, you know, that like I said on the Undoctored series, I said, poor old country girl, I thought, wow.
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to be on TV. So I go to a studio. They give me an address, and I go to a studio to make this video. It wasn't like it showed in the drama series that it was in his office. It was a studio somewhere west of I-35, I think's where it was at. And so I go and I do it, and when I go in, they tell me what to say. And I'm thinking, now why are they telling me what to say? But, okay, I'll do what they're telling me to. And the greatest regret that I have through all of this is me saying he was one great man. And I teared up when I said that during the documentary, or the Untold documentary, because there was a man after me that he did surgery on that was paralyzed and had a lot of trouble, and he went to him because of my video. Now, I had a friend here in Leonard that was going to go to him because of my video, and she did go to him. But he never got to operate on her because she had something wrong with her blood, and she couldn't get her general doctor to okay the surgery. And I thank goodness for that every day. But it was...
This guy was just next level.
Oh.
I mean, you got to go watch the whole thing, whatever, or listen to whatever version you can to get an understanding of this character.
Yeah, it's weird because it's not like he was a serial killer.
We were talking earlier.
Yeah,
there's a different.
It wasn't like he was out to hurt people. He just didn't care if he did, with no remorse.
He had so much in his mind. He was the greatest thing that had ever come along.
Yeah. Total narcissist.
In football, when he played football, in being a doctor, everything. And so he couldn't see that he was doing wrong.
Yeah.
Just like...
Whatever your complications were must be something on you,
Right.
not anything he did.
No, he walked in to my room, and he laid his hand on my shoulder, and when he did, I just screamed out. And he jumped back with both hands up in the air, like, what? And I said, my shoulder is killing me. And I'd already told Larry that it was hurting.
Sure.
And so he said, well, I must have taped you down too tight. So when I went to this other doctor sometime in the end of February, he said, he shouldn't have even taped you down. You don't get taped down for the disc that you had the fusion in. You get taped down.
Tell us real quick what the procedure was. 'Cause I don't think we covered that, did we?
Yeah.
What your procedure was?
Okay, he went in and he did a fusion in my neck of C3 and 4.
Okay.
And 4 and 5 is usually where they have to tape you down like this to get the shoulder out of the way where they can get in there. And by him doing the one that he did, he shouldn't have even taped me down. When I told this doctor that this other doctor sent me to him, he threw a fit. He said he knew better. He knew better. He knew we were trying to get him stopped.
And he said,
The doctor
no,
you're
no.
talking to said he was mad when. Explain that again.
Okay, it was, I'm just going to name them, their names because I already have.
Sure.
Dr. Soren is the one that sent me to him.
Okay.
No.
Yes, he was. And
Okay.
then I
Be sure.
went.
Be sure
Okay.
about that one.
Okay.
I am. Because I was going to go back to him, and he said, no, you're not going.
I had stayed quiet too long.
Yeah.
After
yeah,
I found out Duntsch had been arrested, I was going to go back to Soren because I hadn't had any follow-up,
Right.
or anything.
Yeah, you said, I don't know who to go to. I guess I'll go back to him because he sent me there. And I said, no, you're not.
For a chewing, maybe.
Yeah. So I went to this doctor that the friend of ours had started, and his name was Dickerman, I believe's the name. And he's the one that threw the fit and said, Soren, we were trying to get him stopped. Why would he send a patient to him?
No. Wow.
So,
Yeah, he said, are you sure that's who sent you? And we both said, yes, that's who sent her there. And he said, I can't believe it because we have been working trying to get him out of practice, and he was involved in it also.
He wasn't in any of the things, like the Alec Baldwin character or none
yeah.
of them, but
Sure.
he was in the background trying to, because he had contacted the medical board and stuff, and they were wanting him to come down there. And they said, we can't come down there. We've all got patients, so that's how the question. But anyway, he's the one that had the fit about the doctor sending me to him. So he told me about all that, and he's the one that told me that I shouldn't have been taped down. So I had, after about 4 or 5 months of this shoulder killing me, I went to a orthopedic surgeon and had rotator cuff surgery.
Now, was the procedure he suggested and performed suggested? Like would other doctors agree that's what you needed?
Which one?
The
Your first
fusion.
one, the fusion. Is that what you needed, or was that ill prescribed by
No, I think
Duntsch?
I think it's what I needed, because the Dr. Soren, that's what he
He
said.
didn't have any sort of problems with that.
No.
Even
And
the doctor that called out Dr. Soren didn't have a problem. He said, "Yeah, it looked like that
no.
would have
I mean,
fixed
he
it."
didn't know.
Had
He didn't see me beforehand.
Had he done right, you probably would have been in really good condition.
Well, yeah. If he hadn't have done that to my shoulder, and he
Right.
damaged a lot of nerves in my
Right.
neck, and they, the one time I did go back, I remember this, and I haven't said this to anybody. It occurred to me the other night. He had me do X-rays and bring them in with me when I come back. This is like sometime early January. And he got all excited because he said, see that? See that? And I said, what? And he said, right there, those screws. And I said, yeah, I see the screws. He said, they're growing bone. They're supposed to, apparently, around them.
Sure.
And he'd put some filler of bone, whatever they use. I'm not a medical term person, but anyway. And it had started growing. And all I could see was these really long screws with these sharp ends on them, just about touching the front.
All your nerves and stuff.
Yeah, and the front of my throat. And I'm going, okay.
And the plate that's in there, it's not straight, it's crooked,
Right.
but I don't nobody want to change it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, geez, where'd he go from there? I mean, at that point, you're feeling a little uncomfortable and like, oh my God, this is the root of this guy, and you're kind of connecting the dots. This guy doesn't know
What he's doing.
what he's doing at all.
Right. And
Oh.
after that is when we found out. Well, as a matter of fact, I had an appointment, I believe it was in February, maybe March. Whenever he got arrested, I was on my way from Trenton to Plano, and the office called me and said, he's not going to be available for a few months. And I said, what do you mean?
Still hope.
Yeah.
The true narcissist.
I said, what do you mean he's not going to be available for a few months? Well, if you watch the drama series and stuff, you can see he's in jail, and he's saying he's going to come back and
Yeah.
practice. So that's why he instructed those girls to say a few months. So I was watching the news that evening, and there comes a picture of his office, and all these news people are out there, and people are walking up to the door and can't get in, and all this, and he'd been arrested. And I can't tell y'all how I felt.
How long after your surgery was that?
I had the surgery after Christmas in 2012, and this would have been the last of February, 1st of March.
Okay.
In-
So a couple months, a few
in
months.
13, yeah.
Okay.
Just a couple of months.
Wow.
And I was just, what'd you feel like when you got home? I told you they'd arrested him.
Well, you feel like, who did we go to?
Yeah.
I mean, who is this guy? Because I had bad feelings about him from day one. We was at his office 2 times before the surgery. the first time we was there, I don't believe there was anybody in the office. I believe we was the only ones there. The second time, they might have been one other person, and whenever they called her back to see the doctor, and we walked back there, back to the right was a big room that had glass doors, and you could see in it, and it was full of people. Had suits and ties on and everything. Well, of course, I didn't know, but I thought, wonder what's going on in there. But it's obvious there was lawyers and families in there that had been maybe killed or whatever, There's botched surgeries, I'm sure, but because she was getting in really on the tail end of his practice.
Right.
And nothing out there.
There were so many families that were probably actively doing this
Right.
and that, and he had lawsuits coming at him like crazy, I would imagine.
Right.
That's
Trying to explain what he had done.
yeah.
And of course, as you could see on the documentaries, it was always somebody else's fault. It never was any wrongdoing.
So, did you guys talk to any other victims, or how did you get acquainted with the story and realize you were part of something that was a lot bigger than just your issues you were having? Because
When I saw that on the news, I knew something was bad, wrong.
Yeah.
When your doctor gets arrested. So then little bits started coming out, newspaper articles, all kinds of stuff. And my daughter was on a flight to Florida, and she heard the podcast Dr. Death by Laura Bell. And just a few minutes into it, my voice says he was one great man.
Oh.
And she thought, oh my God, that's my mother.
Wow.
So as soon as she landed, she found out how to get in touch with Laura, and she told her, she said she made that video thinking it was an award, not knowing it was an advertisement. So she invited us all three in to talk to her, and that's how I got that out there. And I learned a lot through that I didn't know.
Sure.
yeah.
And they thought that she was an actor.
They
Oh, wow.
She did,
Yeah, like just a paid
actress. I'm sorry, actress.
I think
They didn't
actor is
reali-
actually the correct term.
Yeah, I think actor is the correct term nowadays.
Okay.
Maybe. But they thought I was, and that they had paid me. And I said, no, I was a patient, and
Sure.
they just made me feel good about it and not knowing. So it was still on the air when this all come about.
Where did that air? On TV?
I think there's a thing called Best Docs on television
Okay.
where you can go see. But they've since took it down because my
Yeah.
daughter, she told him, she said, you better get that off the air and you better get it off now.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So it's not out there anymore that I know of.
Do you talk to anybody else that has been operated on by him?
No, I'd like to,
Yeah.
Right.
to see what they have to say. And I know what they're going to say is the same thing I'm thinking,
Yeah.
Sure.
Just a bunch of promises and
Yeah.
boasting.
I don't know for sure, but I really think you may be one of the better ones. So
Yeah.
I probably am.
yeah.
I probably am.
It's crazy too, going in from the front. And apparently, his first time, there's so much that could go wrong there.
well,
yeah.
supposedly he
And-
never was trained to go in through the front.
he just
Oh.
thought, I can do this.
Yeah.
My daughter blames Baylor Plano.
Sure.
She will not go to a Baylor hospital for anything after they brought him to Texas. I blame them.
They certainly could have stopped it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I blame them because they didn't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And I blame the doctor in Tennessee, in Memphis, because he pushed him on out the door.
Yeah.
Well, so
Well, there's probably some doctors behind those CEOs that told the CEOs to do this or that because they didn't want to get sued. That's
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
bottom
Right.
line.
you got to also put a lot of blame on the way that the medical system.
Works.
Oh yeah, it's a
especially-
complete
especially-
collapse on multiple levels.
Right.
Very, very
And
important levels.
It
yeah.
may be Texas is downfall. I mean, for not enforcing something better for our medical.
Sure.
Well, I've heard from various doctors and stuff that Texas is the worst. It's easier to get by with murder.
Right.
And the way a lot of people brushed it off, as far as nurses and people, anesthesiologists and all that, it's kind of like the captain of the ship, in that he's in charge, and everybody was kind of just felt like that's okay. He says he says goes, and nobody second guessed him for a long time too.
Yeah.
Well, now the one lady who was brain dead, the nurse that was in there, I believe it was a male nurse. I can't really remember. Anyway, he was bullying him by saying,
And he was on to him, right? Was that
right?
Yeah.
He was on to
Immediately,
him.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was telling him, like you said, I'm the captain of the ship. You'll do what I say. And he said, well, you can't do that because we're not certified to do that type surgery. And he said, I am doing that surgery. And if you think you've got somebody to stop me, ever how it went. Anyway, that guy just turned around, walked out of the surgery, and come back with his boss, the guy that was over that surgery center. And he told him, he said, no, you're not doing that. Well, I think they transferred her, and she died in transport.
Yeah, that was one of the 2 victims that died.
Yeah, she had lost
I
so
believe.
much blood. And then, of course, now they count Jerry Summers
3,
as
yeah,
another
yeah.
victim because, and then there's been one that died.
The guy from Princeton passed away on the I know the show said he passed away, but I don't know if it was complications or
I don't
just
either.
happened to.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
the one surgery he did, typical blood loss was 50 milliliters, I guess,
Right.
and he lost 1,200 or something.
That's the
just
woman
insane.
I'm talking about.
Was that her?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That she was brain dead from.
like a fifth of the blood supply or something like that.
Well, that's what it showed. They were all kind of, or the guy talking about it, the nurse said they were all kind of looking at each other because he took the drain out. And she's supposed to be able to drain some blood out of there to keep the pressure off of everything. And he was like, no, it'll be fine. And she sat in there and basically had a stroke, like a slow-acting stroke.
Right.
And, I mean, it's just so many failures on so many levels. And we were talking before y'all got here, like, coming through training, right, through his residency and this really high-profile training thing, I wonder if it was he decent? And then somewhere between Memphis and Dallas, his drug use just, went above and beyond, and then that kind of calcified his narcissism, and he was just delusional? Or was he just trash from the beginning and got,
I don't think he was trash from the beginning because when you look at his father was a doctor. Now,
Right.
I'm not for sure what, a chiropractor or what, but he
Sure.
was a doctor. And, he seemed like
sure,
they
he
were
had,
decent people.
and he had the smarts and the skills, just somewhere along the line, he took a left.
Right. And he had siblings, Now, if he had stayed with the scientific side of things,
Probably been great.
he'd have been great.
Yeah, might have cured cancer. Who knows?
Right. But he had no business in this side of it.
Right.
How long after you woke up did you realize that it was serious and something happened? Something
As soon as
wrong?
I got back to my room, did I tell you my shoulder was hurting?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, like I said, he come in and touched
tape.
me.
Okay, gotcha.
Whenever I first seen her after the surgery, I was afraid she'd had a stroke because she was laying there and you could tell she wasn't comfortable, and she wasn't awake, I guess, real good either, but her mouth was drawed, and I said, can you smile? And she tried to smile, so, I could tell that her face she had some muscle control there anyway,
Sure.
but she didn't look like what I thought she should. But he told before the surgery that he was going to keep me informed, that the surgery was only going to take, I think it was like an hour and a half. And she was back there for close to 4 hours.
Oh,
And he had some incredible ways of delaying people. And
Well,
from
her
what I
sodium
saw.
or something wasn't right, and they wouldn't,
They wouldn't put me to sleep because my sodium was too low when I'd had my pre-op test.
And
Gotcha.
I'm sitting out there in the waiting room, and thinking, well, surgery's going on, and here in a few minutes I'll get an update, because he said every 15 minutes we're going to let you know what's going on, And from the time that they carried her back, I never heard nothing until I walked in the recovery room, And so I thought, because I didn't have good feelings about the doctor.
Didn't help him, did it?
And
I bet that was an anxious time for you.
it
then.
was
Yeah.
very anxious. I went up and and I said, try to get a report, and we'll see what we can find out. But I never found out nothing, And
Jeez.
The man, to me, he was overselling himself. He couldn't brag on himself enough. Well, that throw red flags up for me.
Sure.
But doctors don't do that.
Right.
I wondered why the nurses, I was just outside the nurses' station, my room was, and they could see my bed, and they were staring at me. And then, one would sit there and stare at me, and she'd get up, another one would sit there
Probably
and stare
watching you like a hawk to make sure you didn't die.
Right. I didn't know that at the time, but afterwards I'm thinking, that's why everybody was, staring at me at that nurse's desk.
No.
And I would assume everybody knew something was not right.
Well,
with,
he'd
with
already
the guy,
had
and then and with the results. I'm sure your results were atypical.
Right.
For the procedure.
Well,
Yeah.
he'd already had several outcomes that weren't stellar.
At,
Sure,
that,
yeah.
at that location.
Uh-huh. At that location. I didn't know that until later.
Yeah.
And then I've often wondered if the guy that was in the room next to me, or I won't say room, on the other side of the curtain, when I was in pre-op, the one he said he had to do next, I've often wondered if he's not the one that they left the sponge in. Because from what I understand, I think he finally admitted that he brought an extra sponge into surgery. Because it was kind of like, how did that happen? Because
Yeah, there's an inventory.
right,
Yeah.
if they take 20 in, they got to count and say, okay, we got 20 coming out.
Right.
Well, this guy, they showed it on the news, and that about did me in. They were pulling that sponge out of his incision, and his was in the front. So I'm pretty sure he was probably the guy after me.
I've got an in-depth question for you pertaining to that man. This is a buddy of mine had this question. Jim wrote in. So the guy in the documentary, Mr. Glidewell, I believe his name was.
Jerry Gladwell.
Yep. Jeff.
Jeff.
Is that right?
He's the one that had the surgery because of me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a connection there.
Yeah.
All right, so this is an interesting question, and my buddy likes to think into things. He was the guy whose esophagus was removed and also had the sponge left in his neck. He was moved to another hospital after it was determined his condition was dire and made into a no-contact patient. Is that correct?
That's
That sound
what
right?
I understand,
Okay.
yeah.
Dr. Duntsch attempted to locate Mr. Glidewell, calling different hospitals. Do you think Dr. Duntsch was wanting to find him in hopes of securing an opportunity to murder Mr. Glidewell or possibly silence him?
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
I mean, he told his girlfriend, he wrote her a letter, and it said that he wanted to be a stone cold killer.
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't
So-
gotten there
yeah,
yet.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
some pretty graphic text between the two, his girlfriend and
Yeah.
him.
Well, that changes my opinion.
Yeah,
on
he had
things
some
a
pretty
little bit.
manic rants and
Yeah.
just
I saw one where he said he wants to
cocaine-fueled-
yeah,
Yeah.
he wanted to drink him. So
It's weird because a cocaine addict you would think would have a lot of precision and focus, but then
Yeah.
he seemed to operate as if he was just, double vision drunk
well,
Mm-hmm.
I think
and without purpose.
I think with the cocaine usage probably came copious amounts of booze as well.
True, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think the combination of the two has probably wreaked havoc on many lives. What's interesting to me is it's a fascinating case study in like narcissism in that, because if I was a fraud, I mean, like, look, I'm a sales guy in technology. I'm in the National Guard as a weather forecaster, and I'm pretty confident in what I do, but I'm always kind of second guessing myself. And living that life that he did would have me so anxiety ridden that, take out the harm you're doing to people. Even if I could get over that, just on the verge of always being found out. It seems like you would be like, oh my goodness, but he truly thought that he was the best surgeon in the world.
Yeah.
He did.
You know, that's so amazing to me. I don't know.
did.
It's just, it's
The ultimate
fascinating.
delusion.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just completely,
When they say delusions of grandeur,
yeah. I
He
mean,
had 'em.
he is that guy.
He was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Wild.
But-
What's your experience now, pain wise? And
There's days that I will sit in my chair and whimper when I can't get this pain level to get it to stop. And to try to get it to stop, there's pain pills, there's my stimulator. You know, I turn it up, I turn it down, I turn it off. You know, I try ice packs, I try everything.
that's for nerves,
Yeah.
nerve damage, I guess.
Yeah, and I found a lotion at Walmart of all places.
So got that CBD in it.
Yes, and it's a lotion, and that makes it stay on there a little longer. So after I've done all these things, that's my last thing to try, and it usually will help me until I can.
So, did you have a corrective surgery from that, or you said rotator cuff surgery? Was
Yes.
that was to help the tape down, I guess? And
Right.
so that was
The first orthopedic surgeon I went to, I didn't get to talk to him after I had the MRI. The person in his office says she just read off the paper that, you know, they send a doctor of what their findings are, said there was nothing there. So I went to a different orthopedic doctor, and he looked at the x-rays. I went to the hospital, got him, and he looked at the x-rays, and he said it was such a large tear that they couldn't see it. It's why the technicians said that it was okay.
My goodness.
He said, no, it tore it nearly in two.
Jeez.
It was so messed up that it looked normal almost or something.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like they can't
Yeah.
tell from the image. Wow.
But I knew there was no way that was normal.
I bet y'all get second and third opinions now, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I know the doctor who's sending me.
I'm
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna tough it out. Pour
Yeah.
some tussin on it or something.
Rub
It'll
some
make-
dirt on it.
It'll make you tough it out, I'll
Yeah.
guarantee you.
'Cause
No,
the,
well, yeah, you got to do it now anyway.
Yeah. Well, I started going to a pain management doctor, and shortly after, actually after the rotator cuff surgery, that surgeon sent me to a pain management doctor, and they had gone to school together and knew each other and stuff, and he'd been to him before.
That can be a slippery slope too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It can.
and
That's a
he had
scary
been
one.
he had been to him before, so I started going to him, and he's the one that suggested the stimulator.
Yeah.
And I don't know that stimulator's in there doing anything. I don't feel anything. Some people do. There's some stimulators that you feel it on the inside just like you would if you put it on the outside.
Right.
But
Now is that electrical pulse?
they're pulses, and I don't feel anything.
Have you seen those?
Nerves are weird like that.
Well, and the technology's amazing. Have you seen those deep brain prosthesis for Parkinson's? They implant something very similar
Right.
in your brain. And
Right.
I watched a video of a man who was overridden with Parkinson's tremors, and they turned that thing on, and he just calmed down. Can you imagine how the relief
Yeah.
that must feel? My goodness.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
can
Well, I
imagine it.
think
but
you're experiencing it.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Yeah.
right? Some of it.
That's what I was going to say. I think I can.
You got a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the way my stimulator does.
Right.
It just calms me down.
Wow.
Wow. What a crazy story. I don't know. Like I said, somehow I'm pretty on the, I've got my thumb on the cultural pulse, and somehow this Dr. Death thing has escaped my,
Yeah, I don't remember hearing about it at all back
Yeah.
in 2012 or so. I don't remember seeing it or hearing about it anything, and this came out of
I
this.
saw it on the news.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
because like I said, I had my surgery after Christmas in 2012, and this all went down
Well, if you'll remember
13.
when we started going to the doctors trying to, get you some help, and you would tell them who done your surgery, they'd just kind of step back and look at you, and
They
and,
didn't want to have anything to
Yeah.
do with
you wasn't a good patient.
sure.
Now, when this was all said and done, he got arrested on the news. You see
He's
he's arrested.
in prison right
He's
now.
in prison for life.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Right.
were you guys part of the trial or any of that? Did y'all go to it? Or?
I talked to the DA.
Yeah.
They talked to me. They would tell me what's going on. They told me to be on standby in case they needed to use me because this Mary Eford
Oh yeah,
is who they got him for harming her,
Right.
an elderly person. Well, I was an elderly person. So they were going to come back with more, but they didn't have to.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it was a pretty slam dunk case. Well, because the writing was on the wall from the beginning. Once it finally got through the proper channels, I'm sure everybody was like, "Yeah, this dude's."
Well, it was
killer."
a slam dunk, but it wasn't because it was also you got the malpractice, and it was the first time, from my understanding, a doctor has been convicted criminally like
Right.
that, negligible,
Right.
and
Right.
I don't know what the specifics are of that,
Well,
achievement.
that's the
but
only way they could get him stopped because, the Texas Medical Board wasn't going to pull his license.
Yeah.
And if they had
That's insane.
he would have just went to
Oklahoma or something.
well, he was
huh?
trying to get a. I think they said he was trying to get a license in California.
no,
Or
Colorado.
Colorado, is that
That's
it?
where his daddy lived, and he would have just
right.
went there and
Done the same
resumed
thing.
what he was doing.
That's
And
right.
he had 50 states he could go do that. you
Well,
know?
he mentions that in, I believe it's the drama series. He says something about there's 50 states out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Sick.
So he had no intentions of stopping.
Criminal negligence, I guess,
Yeah,
would be.
Wow.
yeah. And, I mean, he was something else.
So you weren't you didn't testify or anything. You didn't go to the trials, but you.
Did y'all ever get a chance to see or talk to him again? Like when it all kind of came out? Did you?
No.
You didn't. Nah,
No.
that's frustrating.
He
Yeah.
went,
You
he
kind of want to
went
get your
jail.
point across. You know.
He went to jail when they arrested him, and he really never came out. I think he may have gotten bail once.
I don't
know. It's in the
I don't
drama.
know. I
And he
don't-
went to Colorado, and then he had come back, and the last time he come back, he was in some sleazy-looking motel, and they went in and arrested him, and he didn't ever get out again.
I wonder. It's interesting, right? Because you would think now he's hit rock bottom. You know, is there any self-awareness at this point? I wonder if in his heart of hearts, if he's like, man, I really messed some people over, and look at where it's landed me. You
Yeah.
know, or if he's just like, nope,
No,
this
he
is
didn't
everybody
do any
else's
of that.
fault.
Yeah. That one, it was well, I think twice he blamed that anesthesiologist who's on, I get confused whether it's the
Sure.
undoctored or the other, but he blamed her twice. That was reactions to the anesthesia.
There was always
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
There was an excuse for
There's
everything.
always something. He didn't do anything wrong, and I don't think today he thinks he did anything wrong.
You know, and it's such a scary thing because when I go see a doctor, as I've had to a couple of times in my life, you just kind of trust, right? I mean, there's so many.
You don't think not to.
Yeah, like I
Right.
mean, there's medical school, there's residency, there's your fellowship, then you become an attending, there's malpractice insurance, there's all these different fail safes that are supposed to keep you safe. And so like I've never put a lot of thought into like, I mean, whatever. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon.
Yeah.
He can work on me, whatever.
Right.
Neurosurgeon.
Well, it'll make you think.
You've
you
probably
know.
done something to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
certify
it
you.
makes you think
Yeah.
if he's done this,
How many other people have?
right?
You know.
And
And
I've
how many
seen,
And you got some
hospital-
low budget doctors out there too.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
This
I'm
guy's
seeing
supposed to be the
some.
top of the game. You know.
yeah, and I'm seeing some. See, a neurosurgeon brings bukus of money,
And that's
into
what they
a
say. He's
hospital.
an anchor for a hospital, so
Right.
he's a big ticket item. Everybody wants to have him there. They can do this. They can do that. Of course, they're also
If a
Just
hospital can
botching
cover
it
up
all.
a big ticket like that, what do they do on these smaller?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. I know some people in hospital administration and like mid-sized cities, you know, across Texas and in the Southwest. And I was talking to this person, and I can't remember what his specialty was, but this was a brand new doctor out of school. You know, they paid for him. His dad had a ranch that he inherited. When they brought him to the hospital where he was at, they paid for his move of all his cattle. They brought him trailers and everything. They found him a house. And then when he got there and started working, they were paying him like $750,000 a year was his salary. Plus, if he really wanted to hustle, he could make untold amounts of money. And I mean, this guy was probably good and everything. I'm probably still working there, but it's just amazing how somebody like this could. I mean, he was making money and killing people. You know, it
That's
blows
right.
my mind.
And it took a year and a half or so, I think, from Baylor to the
Yeah.
General.
34 or whatever it was.
Right.
A year and a half or so. I think it was within
Right.
2 years.
What really is the kicker for me is there's a cap on suing a doctor.
Oh.
Yeah,
And
see,
like
that's
the people-
wrong.
The people who lost family members to him could only get $250,000 from his insurance. Now the hospital,
Sure.
I don't know how much Baylor had to be out.
I bet they ponied up. I bet.
Yeah, because they had to pay, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, everybody, by the time he did surgery on me, I didn't have to worry about getting money out of him because it was gone.
Oh yeah, like
But
good luck.
Baylor should probably pay you $1 or $2.
Or that other
It
hospital.
doesn't work that
The
way.
other hospital.
Are you-
I signed a.
I'm sure you're not talking about anything like that, but
Right.
are you working
No, I
on?
signed a non-disclosure.
Sure, an
So-
NDA.
Yeah.
But
You know, what would give me a warm fuzzy? Like I'm not a litigious person. If something like this happened to me and the hospital said, "My God, we're sorry. Let's work with you to put this guy away."
yeah,
Great, but they didn't. They try to hide it. They try to kick the can down the road.
They
And that's
hid it.
disgusting.
they hit it.
Yeah,
And Kay Vanway, you'll see her on that.
I did. I saw her.
Okay, she was my lawyer.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
she was a lot of the.
She's a
people's
malpractice lawyer, right?
Mhm,
Yep.
Yeah, and she's really great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she's got a good team, and everything she does is great. As a matter of fact, my daughter recommended a cousin of mine to her because of something that happened to her. She was operated on the wrong. She's having brain surgery, and they operated on the wrong side.
Oh no.
Yeah, and now she's deaf in the ear that they
Oh
operate.
my God.
So she told her, she said, "You contact her. She'll take care of it."
Jeez.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you know,
She
you
was
hear
good.
these things. The amount of wrong limbs removed.
Oh, I
Every
had that
year?
happen to me years ago before we had any children. I was in the pre-op room, and this woman, I know she did my head up and pulled a clipboard out from under my head, you know, and she said, "Yeah, this one right here is ready for her hysterectomy."
And you're like, whoa, wait.
And I'm about half asleep, and I'm hollering, "No, I'm not having a hysterectomy, you know, because I didn't even have kids."
I'm gonna have to ask you to opt out of any surgery
Yeah.
that may be in your future.
Well, they weren't talking to me. She was talking
okay.
to a lady. Our heads were butted together, and I just felt it and heard it, and I thought she was talking about me.
And I bet you when you walk into a medical office, you get anxiety.
Yeah,
I would.
good
Jeez.
Yeah, and like I said, unless it's one I've known
Yeah,
for
sure.
a long time.
I think write that down. Let's start
What was it?
just saying let's investigate our doctors from now on
Yeah,
a little bit
for
more
real.
than you and I probably
yeah.
do.
Well, I think
Fourth
I said
opinion
it
here.
Yeah.
on the podcast that that something needed to be done.
Yeah.
The Texas Medical Board needs to stop doctors like this, and there are a lot of them. There's a lot of the
Can you
pain
s-
management doctors that are giving way too many pain pills and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Can you say whether all litigation, criminal or civil, is over?
As far as I know, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least your part in it for sure.
My part of
Your
it is,
involvement,
and I
your-
think
wash your hands of it.
everybody's
Yeah.
Okay.
is.
Any and I know you said you hadn't talked to any of the victims, but would y'all have any sort of get together to kind of discuss your experiences individually? Like, is there any thought on that?
I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah.
After all this stuff that's going on, though,
I'd talk to that producer.
It'd
if
be
you had-
kind of interesting now. I bet.
I mean, a round table of all you guys talking together would be
Yeah.
pretty interesting to.
I've still got her name, number, and email, so
Yeah,
I
you
might
should- you
give
should
her a
reach
call.
out.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
So,
Well, we appreciate y'all coming in. This was like I said, somehow it escaped me, and I started watching it today, and I was aghast. Like,
Yeah.
just aghast, you know.
May I ask if you could say anything to him? What you'd say?
To him,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's not nice enough to say on a podcast.
I can imagine.
I
yeah,
can imagine
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll use my imagination.
Yeah, just use your imagination.
I bet Larry has a few things to
And
say, too.
Yeah, I'd like to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
yeah, I bet.
That.
And you've watched the miniseries. You've watched it all, I assume.
Uh-huh.
And what's your opinion on all of them?
They did a pretty good job on the miniseries, but one thing that people probably didn't realize is you need to watch the year, because they bounced from 2011 to 2013 and
it's
back and forth, and a lot of people are like,
The Undoctored was nice because it was
Right.
linear,
And-
wasn't it?
yeah, and they
yeah.
showed a picture of that spine,
Uh-huh.
and the vertebrae sticking out from the spine had all of our names
Yeah.
on it
Yeah.
that was there.
Yeah.
And
Asynchronous was the word I was looking for.
Yep,
There
perfect.
we go.
yeah, we were all on that, and I thought that was really nice the way they did that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like you said, they showed where are they now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, told where we were at and what we were doing.
When was that done? When did you guys film that?
Oh Lord, you remember when we went? We went to the
No.
Anatole
Oh, yeah.
Hotel,
Yep.
all the way up in the
The penthouse?
penthouse.
Yep.
Nice. At least they
And-
got you some good digs up there.
Yeah,
That's cool.
and had this done, and it was probably the first of. No, it was the last of 20.
Okay.
Sometime the last part of 20.
So less than a year ago.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
because we were still wearing masks and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They came to Texas to film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
That's what
Yeah.
happened. They were like, hey, you know what?
we
They
need
did.
we need Texas stories.
Yeah.
See, it was part of they were part of NBC.
Yeah, Peacock.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
group.
Yeah, you did Doctor Death Undoctored story, I believe, on Peacock, and that's the one you're featured in.
Right.
Not to be confused with Doctor Death, the
yeah.
miniseries
the
featuring
miniseries.
Alec Baldwin and friends.
Right.
I believe.
They aired that first and then put us on after that.
I just found out about the miniseries this morning. We were having confusion on which one to watch, and
Yeah.
I watched one.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, it's good.
Where I'm going to go watch that. And so yeah, you were on, yourself was on Undoctored, and then the miniseries with Alec Baldwin, you were played by an actress, and then you've also been on the Dr. Death podcast.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
Got it covered now.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
It's a lot of publicity.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I mean, we need to shed a light on this for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Everybody does.
Because more people need to be aware that things like this can actually happen.
Yep.
to
And
you.
do.
Well, you just feel safe when
It's
you go to a doctor.
Certainly
you
an
know.
Yeah.
outlier. I mean, this obviously is not the typical result, but
Right.
things happen, and doesn't hurt to do a fourth opinion.
It happens, and if anybody had told me it would happen to me, I'd said, nah,
Yeah.
not me.
I wouldn't have thought twice.
I
about
It's
mean-
like getting struck by lightning.
Another doctor sent me to him.
yeah, yeah. Why would he do it if?
And that's what I kept in my mind when
I won't
Larry,
never be quiet again.
Oh, I bet not. I bet
when,
not.
when Larry had his doubts. I'm sitting there thinking, no, Dr. Soren sent me to him. He has to know. And I didn't know anything. Boy, if I'd known anything about all this stuff, that'd been the end of that.
Yeah. I bet.
Pam's like, I want to buy this car, Larry. Larry's like, that car's evil.
Yeah. Yeah. You
right.
can't
Don't buy it.
overuse it though now.
That's
you know?
right.
So
I think that's about it. I
think
is
that-
that a good little
Okay.
stopping point. Do you have any anything else that we didn't cover? Maybe you want to
any
interject.
parting thoughts?
Not that I can think of.
All right, we do a little 5 questions on here. Where
We
we
do.
just ask you
Oh,
5
yeah.
questions, if that's okay with you. Just random, pulled out of a jar.
We pull them out of a jar. We
You
do
okay
this
with
for
that? It could
everybody.
be funny. It could be dumb. It could be serious. We'll see. You okay?
Okay.
Y'all like TV or movies and stuff?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because there's a good question right here. Let's see here. All right, I've got 2. I'll start while Matthew is finding his. Any TV or movie deaths you're still not over? Like Old Yeller for me, right? Like that.
You know, that's a good one for me. I have to say that because my grandmother passed away. I was 14 years old, and I went to the movies in Whitewright to see Old Yeller.
Really?
Oh wow.
Wow.
And I never really got over that because she had just died, you know.
I know it's horrible.
Not
Yeah.
a fan of Labradors, then.
Yeah,
Or a big fan, one of the two.
yeah.
I like Labradors.
Yellow Labs.
My I had to put that bad juju on my kids the other day. They watched it and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible." So, what about you, Larry?
I'm gonna go with Old Yeller too.
All right,
all
fair enough.
around.
Fair
Well,
enough.
there's
Walter
another
White.
one where the red fern grows.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I knocked in
Old Dan, Little Ann.
Yeah.
That's a tough one too.
Have you ever been overseas?
No.
No.
Negative, negative.
Negative.
Neither have I. I've gone east and west to some different time zones, but that's about as far as it's gone. I've gone north and south to different countries, but never overseas.
I pulled out one that says, "What's the most dangerous experience you've had?" And I'm just going to put it back in the
think
jar.
we
You
covered
need to
that.
put that
I'll put
back.
that right back in there because I don't need the answer to it. That's a real question.
She was
I'm about.
a patient of Dr. Death, dude. Let's see here. Besides children and marriage, what are your proudest moments? What's your proudest moment besides children and marriage?
Well, I think our marriage was.
Yeah, you can't.
mean,
that's
He
it.
said
you know,
marriage is
Besides
not
that,
one of
You
them.
can't do it.
Yeah, but that's.
I know.
The honeymoon.
Yeah, maybe you can do the honeymoon.
Maybe the
No,
honeymoon.
no.
She says no.
We got in the car and went with his mother and daddy on our honeymoon.
Okay.
All right.
52 years ago.
52. Well, that's a proud
Yeah.
moment.
That's a proud moment.
52,
Yeah.
52nd anniversary. My parents are on their 50th anniversary right now.
Well, good.
Matter of fact, that'll be this Saturday.
Good
Wow.
for them.
Congrats to all of you.
Yeah.
Good for them.
All right.
This
Next.
is a funny one. If you had to go to the Christmas party for Fox, CNN, or MSNBC, which would it be?
MSNBC because they're the ones that have brought this to light.
Oh,
Okay.
good. That's fair enough.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I didn't
enough.
think that was going to be a relevant question, but it was very good.
Yeah. What a tie-in there. One more.
No, I don't like that one.
We say it's
He's
random,
got,
but
he's got a stack over here. I see what's going on.
Do you guys have nicknames for each other?
No, not
No.
really.
yeah.
Not really.
I'm glad you didn't ask my wife that question.
He's got friends that call him Slick, so every once in a while I'll get that in there.
Yeah.
Larry's bald like myself.
And,
Yeah.
and
So,
my
yeah.
and my first name is Pamela. I go by Pam, and when he's really mad at me, it's Pamela.
Oh.
So,
Excellent. That's a solar panel for a party machine.
Yeah.
That's what,
There
I've
you
heard
go.
that before.
that's what I've been told.
Not where he's concerned.
Yeah. Well,
So,
folks, we appreciate y'all coming in. That was
Yeah.
Thank you very much for entertaining my message on Facebook last week or whatever that was, and for coming in here.
it was on Messenger, I believe, is what you sent me.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the work y'all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God you're doing okay. And
I'm doing
and
fine. Like I said, I have my days I'm not.
Sure.
But
Sure.
but I have a
You
lot
live to
more
tell about
that
it.
I
and you're-
am.
Yep. We're happy that you're here with us.
Absolutely.
I think that's it, and we will see you guys later.
Yeah. It's good being back. Thanks, everybody.